They were short of men. Guys got drafted in the army, so that's what it became. After the Depression, when the war come, there was a lot of work then.
So that's what the war helped the jobs?
War helped get out of the Depression.
Do you believe that Great Britain, France, and Russia could hold against Hitler's armies?
They could hold them back?
Yeah, do you think they could have fought them by themselves?
Quite sure. They did anyway.
They did any?
Once the United States beat Germany, and not for the United States, they waited for Russia to get into that war. Then the United States went in together with Russia into Germany to beat them. And as the United States was smart, they wouldn't give Russia the chance they got. Because after they once got in there, Russia got the best of Germany. The United States has got the junk. Russia's got the East Germany, where all the coal mines are and the steel mills and everything. And the United States got the other half of Germany, like this agriculture, I guess, isn't that rich.
Yeah.
Like the eastern half of Germany. So Russia got the better deal out of it.
They got the land of them. Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese on December 7th, 1941. What are your recollections of that day?
Home. It was on a Sunday. And the news came over the radio. It must have been about, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they stopped all the programs and they announced it. And President Roosevelt declared war right away.
Right away?
Yeah. Get after them.
Where were you at this time? You were just at home?
We had to eat dinner. It was on a Sunday afternoon, right after dinner. It must have been about 2 in the afternoon, somewhere around that time, that the news came over the radio.
How did this affect, like, you and your family? I mean...
Well, everybody was surprised and...
Scared?
Then, they couldn't get over it, because at the time Japan was bombing Pearl Harbor, the president was having a meeting with Irene, the Japanese minister, or whatever he was, and that's how false they were. He was having a meeting, and while they were meeting, the Japs came over here. They got this country off guard. That's how false they were.
There was a shock, though,
I'm sure. Everybody was shocked.
I said the people that didn't have sons, we were 2 girls and your grandma and myself. We didn't know, but the families, Uncle Ray's side, they had all the boys, he had a brother went, brother-in-law went, a cousin went.
Anybody had to go and get registered for the draft.
And like from Grandpa's side, we had a lot of cousins. All the boys went to that. It was hard. Roman went, Irvin, and look how crippled up they came back. It was.
Yeah, I got out of it.
Thing.
And my brother
that went
was younger than me. And
he
was sick all the time with colds and stuff.
And Uncle Ray was the first one
that
went.
I was the oldest one.
The first one from the
and I was from all the relatives. I was the first one of that. And I got a 4F.
What is that about?
Well, heart trouble, they said I had. And
But he worked there for a whole day.
Oh, it was one day in the armory, in Armory, Richard Street. But then later they drafted my cousin, and they drafted my brother, and my mom says, they won't take Bob. Too sickly, he's younger, and he always...
How old was he at that time?
18.
18.
And he'd always got a cold and coughing and sick always, and they won't take him. And he went and they took him. Look,
So then how long were you there?
in the army for one day.
One day? One whole day?
Gone. I went at 6 in the morning, and I come home about 6 in the morning. I went through the examination, then found some fault with my heart. And then I was outside listening to a football game. This was in October, right on my birthday. And then they called me. I had to go back and get an x-ray over again. And then I dressed up, and the whole gang that was there must have been about 200 guys. We all went for dinner. We had to walk 2 blocks to a restaurant. We ate, and then we come back. And then they gave me a job, office job, right off the bat. I had to sort papers out. Any paper with a red mark on it, that meant the guy had a record, police record of some kind, and I had to keep them separate from the other ones.
So you had more of an office job then?
For a while during that afternoon that I was there, then about 5 in the evening they called me. They don't call your name, you get a number.
Mm-hmm.
And they put it on with mercurical on the chest with a big swab. It's number 76. And then they called me, and I went in the gym. And the guy says to me, "You don't want to go on a army, do you?" I says, "I ain't got no choice." I said, "What do I got to say about it?"
Yeah.
He says, "Well, I don't think you want to go." I said, "Oh, fine, I've nothing to say." And they gave me a card check, he says, and they gave me my discharge papers. He said, "You can go home." So I left. I got home about 6 o'clock, and the whole family was eating supper when I walked in. And my mom started crying that she was so happy I came back home, because when I left at 6 in the morning, my pa went with me to the drive board. We left from the drive board, and my mom was sick in bed when I left. I went in the bedroom, and I said goodbye to my mom. I left, and my pa walked me down.
Did you think you were going to go into war then?
I thought I'd be drafted because them days when I got drafted, and Harry, my brother-in-law, got drafted about 2 weeks after that, I wouldn't have seen home after that. Once you went there, you left right away. That same day, you went either Fort Sheridan or Cap. And I forget the other.
David? Camp David?
The how? Fort Sheridan, or there's another place in Illinois. And you got shipped out that same evening. You didn't come home no more. But my brother-in-law Harry, when he got drafted, he passed. And, well, my sister didn't see him. Then 11 o'clock that night, somebody was rapping on the door. She opened the door. Harry was standing on the door with his uniform on.
It's a fast. They were shaking them.
That was on a Friday, or they were supposed to only leave 60 miles on a pass away from camp. And they knew all these guys from Milwaukee when I went back home to visit over the weekend.
Yeah.
The Friday night, Saturday, Sunday night, he had to be back in town. So he came home. He was all overcoat on, uniform, cap, all dressed up. That's how fast we did it.
What effect did rationing have on your family? And what was rationing?
During the war?
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, there was
Very bad.
There was no
I
meat.
cried many times. I stood for hours and hours to get a little package of meat.
There was
And
no
when it was
meat.
my turn, there was nothing left. I used to go sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning and so right, and
Yeah.
I came home and I cried. No
You,
kidding. because Grandma didn't know what to put on
You
the
got
table.
coupons.
Just tough.
Coupons. You'd go to butcher for meat. Butchers didn't have no meat. Whatever the butcher knew you, he'd save you a little piece of meat. You had to give him a coupon for that. But the army was getting all the meat. We didn't get. Butchers didn't have no meat to give.
It was
And At that time, we just got married, and we had a space heater or oil burner.
We even
We had to get ration oil to heat the house. We had to have coupons. We needed oil. We called the company, and then the guy put in 60, 100 gallons of oil, 250-gallon barrels. Then you had to tear off the coupon and give it to him. You had to have coupons to get oil to heat your home.
What about coupons?
And not only that,
butter.
then we lived that way. We had to measure every room in the house, the parlor, the kitchen, the bedrooms, the bathroom, but the hallways didn't count. They wanted to know the floor space. You were allowed that much oil.
And if you burned too much of it, you would freeze the rest of the stuff.
Sure, you had to close off your rooms. Close the door if you wanted this warrant.
Your keyhole at that time, boy.
Yeah, it was hard to get meat, and it was hard to get the...
You would see the people would walk and
same thing.
Everybody worked like
Anybody owned a car had to have
gasoline.
gasoline coupon on a windshield, A or B. If you were a doctor, you had a C or D, whatever it was. You were allowed more gasoline because you were a doctor. You laid house calls and you had to go to the hospital and that. But if you were a private citizen, you only got maybe an 8. You only were allowed, I don't know how many gallons a week. But that's all the gasoline you were allowed to drive a car. You couldn't even drive a car. You could, but you ran out of gas, that was it.
How was the effect on the industry in your town? Like what happened to industry?
You're working your winter.
Over here in Milwaukee,
Yeah.
no, it was good because nobody left. People were working overtime, church
A
shift,
lot of women. That's how it
a
started.
lot of overtime, and guys were going in the army, and the women were taking the men's jobs. Then when the war was over, a lot of women became welders, and
Rosie the Riveter.
and that's how that song came out.
Yeah.
The woman used to do men's work, riveting, and the machine shop and that.
They used to make good
They
money.
do men's work. They make
If they wanted to quit.
they got good money, you know. And then when the war was over, the guys come back from the army. These women didn't want to quit their jobs. The guys come from the army. They didn't have. The guys come back from the army. They didn't have any jobs because the women they didn't want to quit. They were earning too good of a dough. They didn't want to quit their job. So the guys are without work. They come from the army, no job left. The women took their jobs.
What were you doing at that time then?
You were working in a lot. You were making
working
stuff for
in
the
a-
army.
Woodworking factory.
He was
Well, they
making
used to make rugged
gun.
and stuff, but during the war, we used to make shell boxes for
Yeah.
105 howitzer millimeter shells, and we even used to make the shells, and we made the wooden cases. There was 5 in one case. That case looked like a doghouse, so big. You could get 5 of them big shells in one box.
Oh, it's shell.
And we'd work overtime. So Ohio was way ahead of us making them shells. We couldn't keep on making the boxes for them. And
You'd come home from work. You were so tired you didn't eat. You just sat by the tin. Your head would go down and you'd go to bed next day back to work. That's how tired you were.
and because we put out these boxes for Heil and all that, we got a flaming bomb, a pin award from the government to wear it on our coat, on our suit coat. There was ordnance, flaming bomb. There's a pin from the government that we received for doing that work. And then we had another job. We made big box. It was like a great big trunk. It looked like one of them vaults on a cemetery, but out of wood. And it had these arms inside with the felt padding. And they used to put the motors in there. And then they put these arms so they were on hinges. Where the motor would be secure so it didn't shift or move. And that wood was waterproof. And everything that locks on it. And then they use them motors when they transport through army across a river or water. They just put it, they throw these boxes with the motor, they throw it off of a boat, and it would float. And then the guys would pick it up and they pull the motor out of the box and they hook it up to a raft of some kind that could transport the troops across the water.
I remember all of that stuff, you know.
That's how they got across to the other side, you know. Those motors helped them.
Did you have to learn like new ways of if you were used to making things out of wood and then all of a sudden you have to make things for the army? Was that hard?
No, it was
Because he did that.
same type of work. It was all woodworking regardless what you did. It's
And
just
they
that
were more, you know,
just that there was
it was
thicker lumber, heavier,
and it was all government.
more sturdier. Yeah, every factory had a government inspector that used to check
Everything had to be perfect.
You know, they made I forget what kind of box they made, and one of the hinges, them brass hinges, you know, it was black. You know, we had to take that off with a new one. They didn't accept it.
Everything had to be to perfection.
The government inspectors were right with the workers. They'd look around how you were working. They'd be walking around while you were working. When something didn't look right, out. Put it if you want to change it, make it over.
Cool.
They were strict.
What kind of entertainment or recreational activities can you recall from the war years? Was there anything different?
Dancing, yes, well, bowling. A lot of dancing. Because then guys used to come, sailors from Great Lakes here on the North Shore on Saturday nights. So
That was fun.
they go to the USOs and they dance. It's a lot of these records come out. Don't sit under that tree with nobody but me. I was
And I was often
Apple Blossom Band. I was
when the sailors would go through, Grandpa and Grandma were
They
living
used
there
to
yet.
open their windows down the North Shore. They used to have 5-6 cars pulling
You
to
should
Great
see on a
Lakes.
Sunday
They
night.
used to have their heads sticking out the window. They'd be yelling, screaming. You'd be sitting outside. They'd be waving. That is wartime, you know.
We had those were big. We never took pictures even of that way. We should have.
Couldn't. They used to come at night.
No, but I mean the cars when they were going through. We should have taken a
Come at night, Irene. They used to go back at 11 o'clock at night.
But they'd go through during the day. I mean, every
come
2 hours.
daytime on a Saturday. They pull 4 cars. That was supposed to be the war.
Your whole house used to shake when they'd go through.
And when they'd go back, they used to pull 6 cars, which they weren't supposed to, but they did because it was 11 o'clock at night and nobody watched them.
How did you receive news like from war letters or newspapers, magazines? Like you said, your brother was in.
Yeah, we get letters.
Write letters, radio. My brother wrote me every week a letter.
And we would write to them.
I'd write to him.
That was what kept
He was
Later.
my mom was worried about him because he was the signal corps,
What is that?
putting up wires,
These
communication, telephone wires and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was stationed in Camp Crowder, and then they shipped him to New York, from New York to England, from England
Belgium,
to Paris,
Paris.
Cherbourg Peninsula, across the English Channel, and from there he was to Belgium. He was in that Belgian bulge where everybody got killed, except his outfit, they get out of it. He said the closest he was to a German was from here to across the street. They were marching in that town in SPA, Spa, Belgium, and the German was in a theater in a lobby. He was shooting at them. He said their whole regiment just disappeared off the street. Just wherever they ducked, they'd be.
He's lucky that he
And,
came home right.
2 days later, all the guys assembled. Not one man was missing out of his gang. They all were accounted for.
And his
And,
cousin.
And then the war was over. The European war was over in Europe. And they had busting out 70 points. then you were allowed to get discharged from the army. And my brother had 70 some points, 72 or something like that. But what they did, they froze the points. And then instead of him coming home for a 30-day furlough, then from there, you were shipped to the Pacific to fight the Japs. But he didn't get no furlough. They shipped him right from Germany to Okinawa. He was riding on a boat on water 52 days. And my mom wrote to him every day, she never got an answer from him for months and months.
Did she know what had happened to him?
And my sister wrote to the Red Cross, and the Red Cross says they can't keep up with him because he's on the move. And they forward his letters, and when they gets there, he's not there. So finally, my mom got one letter from him, and it was stamped Panama Canal. He was going through the Panama Canal zone from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific to fight the Japs. That's the only letter she got from him. Then later on, she got a letter he was stationed in Okinawa. The day he got off the boat in Okinawa to fight the Japs, that is the day the Japs surrendered. And yet, when they landed on shore, all these Japanese, they didn't know the war was over yet. They were still shooting at the Americans. They were hiding in caves, on trees, just like monkeys. It was a tough war. My brother said it was hard, you know.
When he came home,
He said they got
you're not to think.
He says when he, your captain or whoever he is, colonel, they take 10 steps or how many, and you sleep here. If there's water or a hole, that's where you sleep. And take so many more steps, you put your little tent there. Even there's water there or a hole, you sleep there. And my brother says, at one time on Okinawa, they got a typhoon. The typhoon is the worst you can get. There's tornadoes, there's hurricanes, there's thunder squalls, and a typhoon is on the ocean. That's the worst there is. And that swept at Okinawa. And he got hit with a 2x4 across his nose, and he landed in the hospital. And then he got sick on Okinawa. He was
He doesn't
in the
know
hospital for a while. He says he thinks she don't remember, but he says he thinks he had pneumonia. He said everything hurt him. But
He went.
he didn't care to talk too much about the war.
He still.
Unless you asked him, then he'd tell you a few things, but that way he says, forget it.
Things he didn't want to
Yes.
remember.
He says,
He till now.
it wasn't. It wasn't.
When he
This
came,
was no pleasure. He said,
he was so young.
because,
He was just a
I
young
says,
boy.
I says to him about this and about that.
It was
and
the
he-
three of us.
And I
We
said,
always sit on the
I'm
side.
10 years older than he is. And I says,
His birthday was the next
I
week.
was, I got a 4F. I got rejected from my heart. And he made it. They took him. And he says to me, you didn't miss anything. Because I asked him about the war, how bad it was, where he was. He said, you didn't miss nothing. He didn't even want to tear the talk
Most
about.
of things, I guess that's, to us it was impossible.
You would never believe some of
you
the
would
stuff
believe-
that goes on,
Mhm.
He sent pictures, and so I don't know how those pictures ever got through. I got him, but you know what? I put him someplace, and I don't want to even look at him and I didn't want to throw him away because I thought maybe someday somebody will.
They'd go out on a furlough. They'd get a 3-day pass, Then they go to town with a few other guys. He says he remembers one time in Belgium, that's when that Belgian bulge was, everybody got killed except his outfit. That he
There was
belonged
just
to.
a handful.
And he says, it was so bad that they didn't care no more about their life. He said all the soldiers got drunk. He said he was so drunk he didn't know where he was. He fell asleep in some hay barn by some farmer, and he was drunk. These all the guys, they didn't care they're going to get bombed or not. They just
Were
got
they
so
ever- You're
high-eyed,
going to get killed.
and
or
they
what?
laid in a hay barn, do what you wanted. They didn't remember nothing. They were so drunk. And they got,
And
next
that
day,
couple was
they
nice,
got
though,
up in
Rachel.
they were
Those people
looking
that took them.
for one another. Oh, that was in Belgium, where they landed in that town.
But they were.
Then they landed in that town in Belgium where an old couple owned a house. They were about 80 years old. And they had a little garden for themselves and a little old house and a little white picket fence. And the United States Army come and with the Jeep right over the fence, they knocked the fence over right through the garden. And they said to the old couple, "Out, United States Army." So he said, that old lady was crying and talking in German. She didn't understand, but she was crying. And they had a wagon, but no horse. They put the mattress on a wagon, 2 chairs, and a couple of belongings that they had. And the man was pulling that wagon, and that lady, they had to move. Then the United States Army moved in there, and we took the doors off the hinges, and they nailed it in that house. United States Army headquarters, that was their place. And then they took another door, they nailed it on a wall, and the communications, he was in a signal corps. They put all telephones up so they could communicate from one army to another, where they were stationed and what to do, where to land and all that.
Cool. It makes you
But he says the people, he said he felt so sorry for that old couple. He said, but it's not getting down. He said, war is war. Since you come there and out, the people didn't have nothing. This old couple, no horse, just a wagon, couple of little household belongings out. So then they had to get up and they took over. And some of the people in the bigger towns, well, when the United States landed there, they cleared. Cool, they had a play, they had ball because the United States come to help them. They were glad that the United States came there.
Ray, how you can remember all
Irene
that.
was rough life.
And the unemployment it caused affect your immediate family, those whom you lived? Like, how did that affect?
Everybody, during the Depression, everybody was on welfare. My pa did work for 5 years.
5 years.
He we were on welfare, and we had to go every Monday for our groceries. You didn't get a check. You had to go with a coaster for get a 50-pound bag of potatoes, 50-pound bag of flour, and a couple of pounds of lard, and all that stuff they'd give you. It's supposed to last you 1 week. You live on that. 15 pounds of meat in one big chunk. And people then days had ice boxes. There were no refrigerators. And if my ma used to boil the meat so it wouldn't spoil, because it didn't fit in the little ice box we had. Then I could put 50 pounds of ice in there. So she'd boil it so it wouldn't spoil. And you ate that meat for 3-4 days, and the rest of the week we were without meat. And it wasn't. It was no good during Depression, man. My pa, they had government programs, like my pa was on WWII, and they changed it to FERA, and he was getting $60 a month. And it was 4 kids, my mom, my pa. They live on $60 a month, pay your gas, electric, rent, buy coal. But then they used to give us a surplus. They used to pay our gas, electric, and then we had to pay the rent out of that $60. Then the investigator would come from welfare. He wanted to see the receipt. We paid the rent. So then what they did, they made me go to work.
How old were you though? But
18.
you're 18.
Between 18 and 25. When I got to be 25, I had to give up the job because I was too old. That was they called it NYA, National Youth Administration. From 18 to 25, I was getting $30 a month. And my pa was getting 60, that was $90 a month. So they had to live on $90 a month for his family.
Do you remember how that affected your family, the Great Depression? Or
Well, I know that Grandma and Grandpa lost the tavern when they had to. It lost, and then
how long did they have the tavern in Bigfoot?
Just
Like since they had gotten married?
no. Yep. Let's see, there would be. I was born 1914. He must have had in about 27 and so, 1927. They had it a couple of years before Depression.
I lost at the tavern about 17 years.
They had about 17 years, yeah. They lost everything, though. Everything.
They lost that property.
The house.
They couldn't pay us, make the payments.
It was really
Or
bad.
did you have to call them?
Then we moved private at it on 11th Street, 2150, South 11th Street. You lived in the same block.
A couple of doors away.
And Grandpa wasn't working, couldn't find no job. I got work.
Well, you worked the little bit that you earned, but your pa got on the PA too.
Yeah, then he was working.
He worked at
In a park. No.
no, where they raise little plants.
Oh, in
Greenhouse?
greenhouse.
Or it's like a greenhouse. We got another
It
word.
was another word for it, though.
Melissa?
Gosh. I can't think of the word right.
That's okay. Like what money problems exist in your family? Like you just said, that you just only got a certain amount.
Money problems.
Everybody.
Wasn't it?
There was no money.
You're lucky you made a living. You didn't get that.
You couldn't buy nothing.
Me,
I remember a time.
the landlady upstairs, I'd run an errand for her or something like that. She'd give me a nickel for a bag of Bulldog tobacco. I had to spin and make it myself. Camel cigarettes, so that were 15 cents a package. And later on, they were for quarter. But Bulldog was 3 packs for a dime. My pa used to smoke that. Then it was nickel a bag. Bulldog.
She maybe doesn't know what that is. That is cigarette.
Oh,
You have to make your own cigarettes. You know, you get the papers.
I used to smoke when I was that age, but then I quit smoking because smoking didn't agree with me. I used to cough and choke and tears would run out of my eyes. I thought, the heck with the cigarettes, I quit. So I quit smoking. But if she didn't give me that nickel, I'd have no spending money. We didn't get no spending money from nobody. There wasn't no money.
I remember when your daddy was born, what was it, 1938, no, Nancy was born 42, 38, 37, 38 he was born. It was bad yet, I'm sorry, at that time, because I remember we had Wonder Bread on the table and a toaster, and that was all we had in the house. That was all we had.
It happened twice in our family that I recall on a Sunday. My aunt, my uncle worked. He worked many years at Harshes. He had a pretty fair job. And she came visit my ma on a Sunday, and it was 4:30, 5 o'clock. And my ma, we'd have nothing to eat because Monday was our day to go to welfare for our food. And she was sitting talking, and my ma whispered to me, she's like, I hope Aunt Louisa to go home because she says, I ain't got nothing to put on a table to treat her with cake or coffee or something. Yeah, nothing. You know what we had that day for supper? Right? My mom, the only thing we had was potatoes. And my mom didn't have no lard to fry them potatoes in. That's all we had. And that one Sunday, my mom had homemade bread and we didn't have
Nothing to put on the
no
bread.
lard to put on a bread. Because they used to give us them silver leaf blocks of lard, pound.
You didn't even get butter at that time, did you?
And my mom used to take that 2 bricks of that lard, that silver leaf they used to call it.
Mhm.
She'd put it in a kettle and melt it, and she'd put an onion in there, she'd mash that onion, then she'd strain that lard, and she'd put it in an ice box so it got hard.
Then they got
Then-
this.
Then we had that to smear on bread.
You could put sugar on top or something like that.
Pepper and salt, and we
We
had
used to
that.
like it.
And
We used to be crazy about it.
homemade
But that
bread.
isn't good for you.
My mom would
Last trouble.
There.
My mom baked bread every day in the week. It'd be 80, 90 out
When we
in
get
July.
for a loaf of bread,
In August, in July, 80, 90 outside. My mom would, well, we had a coal stove and a gas. That was a combination stove. And my mom had the oven going with homemade bread she used to make in the summer. Hot in the house and it's hot outside.
She didn't have a choice, did she? Come out.
No.
Think she.
when you got a nickel,
Nobody had fans or refrigeration, nothing like that. And if you got a nickel,
you go buy a loaf of bread.
my mom chased us on 11th and Maple by Holwick in a baker for a nickel. You'd get a, well, perhaps it was from this big piece of cheesecake, 5 cents this big.
Or coffee cake,
Coffee cake or apple cake
apple cake.
or marble cake, 5 cents for a piece of cake this big. Or a loaf of bread that long.
Inch thick.
Loaf of bread that long for a nickel.
That was a treat.
Then you got a coupon, 5 cent coupon. Then when you had $1 worth of coupons, you hand it in and they give you a free flour bag that my ma used to make
Then you'd soon put a hammer on,
for
washing dishes.
wiping.
Why dishes?
Use the flour.
She'd bleach it out in the sun, or
They used to.
a couple of times she'd hang it out in the yard, the sun would bleach the wording off the
Later on,
It'd
people
say
used to buy them.
50-pound bag flour. It was printed on a bag, but the sun used to bleach that. And Irene's ma used to sometimes,
I used to make pillowcases even out of that.
or they'd sew 2 of them together and make a nightgown or something.
Yeah. Because from sugar, it was thinner. I'll show you what they look like.
Well, here, wait. What conditions do you recall, like in your?
See, this is what would be a sugar bag.
What conditions do you recall in your immediate neighborhood? What was it like in your neighborhood?
Well,
It wasn't bad. Kids, we played in the alley like kids do. Today, play ball or hide and seek or things like that,
What assistance do you recall having been given to those in need by your church or like the city government or county government? If someone was, needed help, did your church help?
And your church help.
Church or like the state? Or...
Yeah. My pa one time got a job. My pa got called to WWII. That was in the winter time.
Mhm.
And they told him to come work outside, 0 weather, snow. And my pa says, I don't know how I can work on that job. No clothes. Well, I could work outside in this weather. Oh, sorry, got a card. Cop used to bring it to the house. Report for it tomorrow morning here and there. We'd have to go. So my pa didn't have no clothes to go to work outside. So he went to Hyson's church by Father Binieski, the priest. And he asked her for help out. Says, gotta go to work outside, and it's cold, and I don't know what. And the priest, we belonged to the parish, but we went to Wind Academy School, public school. And that's the first thing the priest said. He said, he says, well, my 2 sisters, and I was in 8th grade already. And I wouldn't quit Winlick Avenue School because I was ready to graduate soon. And my sisters were in the lower grades. And the priest says, yeah, he says, your kids go to public school, but for help, you come over here. And my pastor to the priest says, I didn't come here to argue. He said, you don't want to give it to me? Well and good. He says, I didn't come to argue with you.
Yeah.
And my pastor says, keep it. But he was walking around, the priest says, come back here. And my pa went back and he made out a list for St. Vincent's de Paul. And I had to go with my pa. We got a blanket. My pa got some socks made out of sugar string. They were knitted brown and white and black and white, like winter socks.
Yeah.
And a pair of galoshes, overshoes, pair of overalls with that bib, that jacket. And a pair of canvas gloves, gave that stuff. Then we had to go to St. Vincent's de Paul to get it. They helped out. But my sisters had to quit Winlick Avenue School and go to Hysons. My pa said, they can't do it. I got no money for schooling or for books. And the priest says, forget about it. We'll take care of that. So they went to Catholic school and they furnished the books and everything. But I didn't. I said, I got 1 year to go. Why should I quit?
Don't you remember Esther from that school?
Maybe, I don't know.
Do you remember like a church helping you at all, or like the company?
No, not this year. I remember Grandpa going to work, WWII, with an overcoat. I know he came home frozen because I was getting dressed. Then I got a job at the green room. Right? Yeah. I got a job working downtown in the green room. And
$13 a week.
I was bringing home for 2 weeks, $15. I worked, $7 was by Angelo and Second and National, $6.50 a week. $6.50 a week, and he gave me a raise to $7.50. And 48 hours. 48 hours I worked. I was the first one that made snow tracks from the tavern. And that was in the tavern when they were losing the tavern already. And that's where I was working.
Did you live by the tavern at that time?
Yeah, we were living in a tavern when I started to work because I was young. I was only about 16 years old, 16, 17 years old. Yeah, I was very...
Okay, although most people consider the Great Depression to have been hard times, frequently those who lived through it consider good to have come out of the Great Depression. Do you feel that any good came out of the Great Depression, or did you just think it was all bad?
You learned a lot.
Well, I'll tell you.
You valued things more.
Yeah. Everybody went through it for 1 year.
This would be a different world.
They would know the value of $1. But today I think people are spoiled with their high wages. Everybody wants a car, we used to get nickel spending money or 2 cents. Today, if you don't give the kids $5, $10 spending, they shoot their mothers or they go steal. Years ago, it wasn't that way. Kids were satisfied with a penny. You got a penny, you'd go buy a penny candy and you were satisfied.
They used to sell candy.
I was 21 years old, 1935. I worked at Miller Furnace. Payday was every 2 weeks, cash money, no checks. I got $36 for 2 weeks' pay. I brought it home the money, put it on the table, gave it to my ma. The whole payday.
I did too.
My ma gave me $3 spending money for 2 weeks. And I was going with a girl. And I got my first payday on my 21st birthday. It was on a Friday. 1935 was on a Friday, October 11th. I had my first payday from a factory, $36. I brought it home, I gave it to my mom. My mom gave me $3 spending for 2 weeks, and I was smoking at the time. Well, cigarettes were cheap, but anyway. I told my mom, I says, is that all? I says, I go with a girl. I said, we go to show. I says, quarter to get in, quarter for me, that's 50 cents. I says, and I said, next week I go to show again, or I said, we go for a walk and buy popcorn.
We should go for ice cream. Banana
Or
split.
have a banana split 16 cents on Lincoln Avenue. That's just $3 for 2 weeks. It ain't enough money. My mom says, keep it all. She says, keep the whole thing. That's the way you feel about it. So I had to be satisfied with $3 for 2 weeks spending on it.
And I
had to
had
buy-
nothing. I
And I had I had to buy my own cigarettes out of that money and everything.
And my mom nearly cried every time. She always says, Irene, I can't give you nothing. And I figured she had coal bill to pay. When they left the tavern, they had so much. I always felt sorry for my mom, for grandma, because it must have been tough. I was young. I was foolish. I didn't realize, but it must have been tough. I always tell it to Uncle Ray. I don't think she knew for years what it was to have a $5 bill in her pocket.
Now
I think I told that to your daddy.
when you're talking about any good come out of that, I would think so.
I think so too.
The people, we didn't get much money or nothing.
We were never bored.
We were poor. We always had found something to do. We didn't go steal hubcaps or vandals like today, or robbery or killings and stuff like today. There wasn't such a thing. And I used to work in a cellar. I used to make stuff out of wood.
Yeah.
I'd go to fruit store, buy a apple box or a orange box out of wood for a nickel. I'd bring it home, take it apart. Then I used to make myself the little ship models with the sails, like see in the stores. I made 5 of them. And I sold them for $5 a piece.
You know when I was going out with Uncle Ray and I went in their cellar
Then
and their pa, Uncle Ray's dad, and Bobby's friends, Uncle Ray, and their dad, and Bob, and the kids, they were all working like Santa Claus and his little helpers. It would melt your heart to see a father and then the little kids. They were young, And this year, and everybody was working because Bobby was younger than you were. You were already dressed up. You were,
10 years.
This year, there's 10 years difference. Remy, he was young when we were 28 when we were getting married, Ray, and he was only 18, 17, going on 18.
Yeah, but they didn't bum around. We found things to do at home. We were to make stuff and we enjoyed things like that because we didn't have no spending money. Where could we go? There wasn't such a thing. And people were satisfied. They lived better than they do today. Even you made $18 a week in a factory, but your rent was $7 a month, $9 a month, and you could, a loaf of bread was a nickel, pound of pork chops was 18 cents, 13 cents, pound of coffee was 18 cents.
3 pounds of coffee, you're 59 cents.
$18 a week. You could still save $1 or $2 a week in the bank. Besides the living thing.
But then you didn't buy fancy things, You just
People then days didn't have cars like today, or they went out.
You
at
just
good times.
and that you saw that you had food on a table that the kids ate and that,
I think I never ate in a restaurant in my life when we were small. There were no restaurants.
But there was that Coney Island and Mitchell Square.
yeah.
That my mouth sometimes,
Nickel hot dog.
Yeah.
They
had
in a window.
They
And that grill, then they have them little,
You would never remember that.
such a little,
They don't have that
they had
anymore.
such a little bowls with pork and beans. They were on that grill. But it was always warm.
And those hot dogs, you'd be walking a block away, you could smell that. Your mouth would water. Then they'd put on those hot dogs chili. I didn't eat it because I didn't like. But Grandma and Grandpa used to like it, so you
I didn't like chili.
you didn't care for this
The
year.
green mustard and raw onion.
But it was.
If everybody went through that 1 year out of their lives, they would know what a nickel and a dime is and what a quarter.
They would be a better person.
They would maybe, I don't know, maybe they'd come down to earth. Today they're spoiled. We just don't give a damn. It comes too easy. Most families today, they got 2-3 cars. The parents both are working. In a lot of cases, in the richer people, the kids get the They use the parents' car to get $10 spending money. And if they don't get it, they go steal it or rob. And get a lot of vandalism and stuff. What was that 3 years ago? You know, when we lived us to you were kids. The people upstairs, they had about 7 kids, that 4 girls and 3 boys. But they were all in their 20s. But you know what? They never had a key for their door. They never locked the door. They, like 24 hours a day, door was open. You could walk in there 2, 3 in the morning. Everybody was sleeping. You could go through that house, walk out. But there wasn't such a thing as stealing years ago. Never.
On this street alone, you know what? We had all aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and everybody. Everybody had a sister, a brother, or aunt or uncle. These two sides, there was houses across the street. It was just one family.
You know, today,
go visit.
We got deadbolt locks. People
still get
putting on fences. But we were just 33 years ago. There was not one fence. We could go from the corner to the next corner, walk from one yard to another. And the neighbors would walk in your yard.
Everybody turned
you'd be talking.
1930.
In the morning, talking, hanging clothes, and nobody had fences like that.
It was beautiful years ago. When you stop to think of it, I could never more what we went through. We were hard.
Years ago claimed they weren't educated. But I think they were smarter than they are today because they agreed, they got along. Today, it's too much jealousy and there's the kids are too wild. There's something's wrong. God, you know, you just seen the paper. How many teachers got clobbered during 1983 and part of this year? 700 and some teachers that they had yesterday's paper that the students beat them up. And they hate the job. But years ago, you never had that. You were told to do something, you did it. The teacher would give you homework, you went home, you did it. Come next day to school. Today, the kids said they drop out of school at 16, and they come with no laws. They don't have to go to school if they don't want to go. And years ago, my mom was sick. And Bobby was little. I was 12 years old. And the butcher was on the corner. We lived in the middle of the block. And my mom says,
have your pick. Everybody had something good.
There knew now where my mom says, go to the butcher and buy some meat for supper, 2 pounds of shoulder meat or this or that. I went to the butcher. It was 1 o'clock. And the school was Willie Cameron School was on the next corner. I'd go through the alley 1 block. I was in school. And the bell would ring they had a horn. You could hear that way by us. 10 after 1. It was 1 o'clock. I went for the meat. I come out.
He had to make dinner.
The officer grabbed me. Why I ain't in school? I says, I'm coming from store. And I says, I'm going to go to school. I got my mom's sick. I was to butcher. I had to go shopping. And I said, I'm going to school now. They caught you. Today, they don't have truancy officers. You go on Nickel today, kids are walking the streets with a cigarette in hand, can of beer, they throw it on the road. Squad car cops looks the other way. Why don't they ask them kids why they're not in school? They don't stop them, they don't do nothing. They claim they have no money for truancy officers. Well, give the policemen authorities to stop them kids. Ask them why they're not in school or where they got the cigarettes from. You're not allowed to smoke under 21. In fact, anybody sells you cigarettes could pay you a fine if you're under 21. Any grocery store, tavern keeper selling you cigarettes, they're subject to a fine. And yet they do it. And kids got it.
Anything else you want to say about that?
I don't think so.
That's all. Any more questions?
No, I just got it.
That's all.